Welcome to The Explainer. As a historian and researcher, I've spent years digging into humanity's past. And honestly, nothing fascinates me quite like the ultimate mystery, how everything began. We've got this deeply ingrained universal drive to understand the origins of the world and, of course, ourselves. So today, we're diving into how wildly different global traditions tackle these absolute foundational questions. So, where did we actually come from? It's literally the fundamental question. Every ancient culture, every modern civilization, we've all wrestled with it since the dawn of humanity. Long before we had modern cosmology or astrophysics to investigate the universe with strict empiricism, ancient societies were looking up at the exact same stars, looking down at the Earth, and crafting these incredibly profound narratives to just make sense of the whole shebang. To really set the tone here, I want to share this incredibly haunting, almost skeptical quote from the Nasadiya Sukta. That's a hymn in the ancient Hindu text, the Rig Veda. It goes, "Then there was neither existence nor non-existence." Wow, right? It ponders the origins of the universe in this deeply contemplative way, actually pointing out that even the gods came after creation. It doesn't just hand you a simple answer. Instead, it really pushes us to question whether anyone can truly know the absolute beginnings of reality. It's just a brilliant reminder of the sheer philosophical depth we're dealing with in these ancient texts. Okay, let's lay out our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover 1. The search for origins, 2. Creation from chaos, 3. The Abrahamic traditions, 4. Cycles in eternal universes, and finally, 5. The purpose of life. Starting off with Section 1, the search for origins. Let's define what we mean by a creation myth. So, in the academic study of religion, a creation myth, the technical term is a cosmogony, is basically a symbolic narrative of how the world began. Now, historians of religion, like the famous scholar Mircea Eliade, strongly emphasize that we shouldn't view these as just primitive, fumbling attempts at early science. Not at all. Actually, they're meant to convey profound cultural truths, whether metaphorically, symbolically, or literally. They establish a society's core philosophy of life and orient humanity within both the natural and spiritual worlds, usually set in this dim, non-specific ancient past. To actually make sense of the hundreds of distinct creation narratives found all over the globe, scholars categorize them into some common motifs. The main ones we'll touch on today are ex nihilo, which means creation literally out of nothing, creation from chaos, where order is imposed on a formless void, and emergence, where life sort of gradually unfolds. Using this academic framework is a fantastic lens for our explainer because it helps us spot these amazing shared human threads woven across vastly different cultures. Moving on to Section 2, Creation from Chaos, or Bringing Order to the Void. Let's look at a really striking contrast between two ancient Near Eastern powerhouses. In the Babylonian epic, the Enuma Elish, creation is, it's violent. The god Marduk battles and brutally defeats Tiamat, a figure linked to the primeval sea. He literally uses her body to build the structure of the heavens and the earth. So order is created through force and absolute victory. But contrast that with the Egyptian Heliopolitan tradition. In that worldview, creation kicks off with this boundless mass of water called Nun. A small mound naturally rises, and the deity Atum peacefully emerges. Order grows step by step out of a silent sea. It's less of a cosmic wrestling match and much more of a natural unfolding. Now for Section 3, the Abrahamic traditions focusing on a linear divine plan. Modern scholars of biblical criticism view the book of Genesis through a pretty fascinating lens. There's this widely studied framework called the documentary hypothesis, which suggests Genesis is actually a composite of different historical sources. For instance, Genesis 1, which scholars attribute to the priestly source, uses the title Elohim and lays out this grand, highly orderly six-day creation sequence through divine commands, wrapping up with the Sabbath rest. But then, Genesis 2, attributed to the older Jehuist source, uses the name Yahweh and gives us a much more intimate, hands-on account. It describes God physically forming Adam from the dust of the ground and placing him in the Garden of Eden. Two very different flavors of creation right next to each other. Over in Islamic tradition, the creation of the world pops up throughout the Quran in these very short, direct passages. Allah creates the heavens and the earth in 6 periods. But the key takeaway here, and it's an important one, is the explicit emphasis that this immense cosmic effort brings absolutely no fatigue or struggle to the creator. The narrative focuses squarely on order, pure intention and absolute divine power, rather than a dramatic sequential story. The earth is spread out, the sky is raised without any visible pillars, and water is established as the absolute source of all living things. It showcases this incredibly calm, brilliantly structured universe.
All right, Section 4, Cycles and Eternal Universes, looking at infinite cosmic cycles.
Now let's pivot and see how Eastern traditions build an entirely different worldview. In one major Hindu tradition, there's this mind-bending concept of a golden egg, or Hiranyagarbha, from which the deity Brahma emerges. This paints creation as a natural expansion, but get this, it's just one stage in a phenomenally vast cycle of cosmic rise and decline that repeats infinitely. And Jainism? Well, Jainism takes the eternal universe concept even further. In the Jain view, there is zero creator deity, none. The universe has simply always existed and will always exist, moving through infinite cycles driven entirely by the natural, unguided interactions of matter and living souls. It is a profoundly stable, entirely self-contained explanation of reality.
Buddhism takes a really unique angle here. It shifts the focus entirely away from cosmic origins and zooms right in on personal reality. The Buddha analyzed personal experience into 5 aggregates, known as skandhalas: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. The big aha moment here is that these aggregates are in a state of constant flux. There's no static, unchanging self or permanent soul. It's a dynamic, ever-flowing process. So it's an incredibly precise, almost psychological inventory of human experience that beautifully mirrors the impermanence of the wider universe itself. And our final section, number 5, the purpose of life, connecting cosmogony to humanity. So, what does this all mean for us? Well, the crucial point is how the presence or the total absence of a creator deity completely shapes a tradition's moral framework. In the Abrahamic faiths, an all-powerful God creates the world with specific intent, which means humanity's purpose is deeply intertwined with obeying or honoring that specific creator. Now, in Jainism, because there is no divine maker, the focus stays squarely on the behavior of living beings. Your own actions directly dictate future conditions in a closed-loop universe. And in Hinduism, where deities like Brahma are part of a natural cyclical expansion, human purpose is all about understanding our proper place within those massive cosmic rhythms. And this perfectly illustrates how these ancient understandings of origins actually apply to individual biological life. Islamic jurisprudence, for example, draws on a hadith regarding fetal development to outline stages of early life: 40 days as a seed, 40 days as a clot, and 40 days as flesh. According to the majority of scholars, it's only right after this 120-day mark that an angel breathes a soul into the body, a moment known as ensoulment. This marks the profound transition from merely biological life to full human life, and it directly informs modern ethical and legal guidelines within the faith today. These wildly different origin stories naturally lead to incredibly diverse definitions of what human purpose actually is. In Mormonism, the belief is that humans lived in a premortal state but forgot it. So mortal life is a test to rediscover those divine origins and follow a roadmap back to God. In Hinduism, the ultimate goal is realizing that we are eternal spirit souls, not just temporary material bodies, so we can break the cycle of suffering and reestablish a loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. And in Judaism, the creation story is all about God bringing order to chaos, meaning humans are tasked with this ongoing, beautiful responsibility to sustain that order, which is so perfectly symbolized by the continuous weekly rhythm of the Sabbath rest. Well, we've covered a huge amount of ground in this explainer today, haven't we? From the violent cosmic battles of ancient Babylon, to the peaceful expansions of the Golden Egg, to the meticulously structured days of Genesis. These are absolutely not just ancient stories gathering dust on a shelf. They're active, breathing philosophies that define morality, shape laws, and give billions of people their ultimate sense of purpose right now, today. So, I'll leave you with this thought to ponder. When you really examine your own worldview, what foundational story is silently shaping how you see your place in the universe? Keep asking those big questions, and thanks for joining me.